Swiped right, meta nightmare. 5 true dating app. Horror stories tell late night story. Online dating, exciting, convenient, and downright terrifying. For most, a swipe right is the start of something new, maybe even romantic. But for others, it's the gateway to something they never signed up for. Lies, deception, and in some cases, pure horror. From dates that vanished without a trace to encounters with people who weren't who they claimed to be, these 5 real-life stories will make you think twice before meeting someone from an app. So dim the lights, check your surroundings, and if your phone buzzes with a new match, well, you might want to wait until after this video to respond. Let's dive in. Story 1: Vanishing Date. I remember that night like it just happened yesterday. A part of me wishes I had never opened that dating app. If I hadn't swiped right, if I hadn't started chatting, maybe I would never have known what real fear feels like. But it happened, and no matter how much I try to forget, the memory of Rachel still haunts me every time I close my eyes. I met Rachel on a popular dating app. We talked for about a week before deciding to meet in person. She had this strange kind of allure. Her pictures weren't overly perfect, but there was something about them that felt genuine, yet oddly captivating. Her messages were the same, never too pushy, never fake. She made me feel comfortable, like we had known each other for much longer than just a few days. We decided to meet at a small cafe downtown. It was cozy, the kind of place with dim lighting and soft jazz playing in the background. When Rachel walked in, I felt a strange mix of excitement and relief. She looked exactly like her photos, maybe even more beautiful in person. I considered myself lucky. Not everyone gets that kind of experience when meeting someone from an app. She sat across from me, smiling softly, her eyes gleaming in the candlelight. Our conversation flowed effortlessly. She was intelligent, witty, and had this way of making everything she said feel intentional. But as time passed, I started noticing something off about her. I couldn't put my finger on it right away. It was just a feeling, an unease that built up little by little. Maybe it was the way she looked at me, not just making eye contact, but studying me, as if she were memorizing my every detail. She never broke eye contact, never fidgeted. Her presence was too still, too focused. At one point, I tried to joke about it. "You're staring really intensely." I laughed nervously. "Are you checking if I'm real or something?" She tilted her head slightly, her eyes never wavering. "I just like knowing people," she said, her voice almost too soft. A shiver ran down my spine. I forced a chuckle and kept the conversation going, trying to ignore the creeping dread that was slowly tightening around me. Then suddenly, she stood up. "I need to use the restroom," she said. I nodded, watching as she walked away. But as soon as the restroom door shut behind her, a cold feeling settled over me. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I glanced toward the restroom. No sign of her. 15 minutes. I started to feel anxious. Maybe she got sick. Maybe she left through another exit. 20 minutes. I couldn't take it anymore. I flagged down a waiter and asked if he could check the restroom for me. He hesitated but agreed. A minute later, he returned with a confused expression. "There's no one in there," he said. My stomach dropped. "No, that's not possible," I stammered. "I saw her go in." The waiter shrugged. "But I just checked. It's empty." I felt lightheaded. I pushed back my chair, scanned the cafe. Rachel was nowhere. I ran outside, looking up and down the street. Nothing. She was gone. Heart pounding, I pulled out my phone and opened our chat. Maybe she messaged me, maybe something happened. But as soon as I tapped on her name, my blood ran cold. Our conversation was gone, not deleted, gone. Her profile vanished, as if she had never existed. My hands shook as I searched for her username. Nothing. I checked my call log. No record of her number, no messages, no trace of her anywhere. It was like she had been wiped from existence. I stumbled back into the cafe, my mind spinning. Desperate, I asked the barista, "Do you remember the girl I was sitting with earlier?" The barista's confused expression made my stomach lurch. "You came in alone," he said. "You've been sitting there by yourself the whole time." I couldn't breathe. That wasn't possible. I remembered her. I remembered every detail. Her smile, her voice, the way she spoke, the way she watched me. But if Rachel was never here, then who the hell was I talking to? A sickening dread coiled in my gut. I begged the cafe owner to let me see the security footage. It took some convincing, but eventually he relented. When I saw the footage, my entire body went cold. On the screen, I was sitting alone, smiling, talking, laughing, but there was no one sitting across from me. Rachel was never there, or at least no one else could see her. I left the cafe in a daze, my mind shattered. That night, I barely slept. My room felt too quiet, too still. Every shadow felt like it was moving. Every sound felt like a whisper just beyond my hearing. Then at 2:33 a.m., my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "I had a great time tonight. We should do this again." My heart stopped. A second later, another message. "Why did you leave so suddenly?" I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then the final message came. "I'm outside." Slowly, I turned my head toward my window, and there, standing perfectly still under the dim glow of the streetlight, was Rachel. Her face was pale, her eyes too wide, too dark. Her smile stretched just a little too far, and she was staring directly at me. The last thing I remember before everything went black was the sound of knocking. 3 soft, patient knocks. I never opened the door. I never used a dating app again. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I still get texts from unknown numbers. Miss me? So tell me, what do you think happened? Was it a ghost? A glitch in reality? Or something worse? And more importantly, if Rachel never existed, who was I talking to? Do you dare to listen to the dark? If tonight's tale gave you chills, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what creeps you out and what other stories you'd love us to explore. Don't miss out on the next terrifying story. Subscribe to DTC, The Place of the Brave, and join the family that thrives on the unknown. Tap the notification bell so you're the first to hear every spine-chilling tale. Share this video with someone brave enough to face the darkness, and let's dive deeper into the creeps that haunt our world. Comment below and become part of the terror. The darkness is calling, and we want you with us. Story 2. The Park Encounter, a true dating horror story. I remember that afternoon vividly, the mix of excitement and nervousness as I prepared to meet someone I had been texting for weeks on a dating app. Her name was Vanessa, and our conversations had flowed so naturally that it felt like I had known her forever. I had imagined her 100 times, what her voice would sound like, how her laughter might ring, and whether she would resemble the pictures I had seen on her profile. In my mind, this could be the beginning of something great, or at least an interesting date. What I didn't know was that this anticipation would soon turn into an unforgettable nightmare. Vanessa had suggested meeting at a park near downtown. I agreed without hesitation. The weather was perfect. Sunlight filtered through the trees. A gentle breeze carried the scent of damp leaves after the previous night's rain. I arrived on time, even a little early. Sitting on a wooden bench near the entrance, I pulled out my phone and sent a text. "I'm here. Where are you?" But there was no response. I waited, glancing around, reassuring myself that she was probably on her way. 10 minutes passed, then 20. An uneasy feeling crept over me. While waiting, I noticed a man standing a short distance away, beneath the shade of a large tree. At first, I paid him no mind, but something about him unsettled me. He was still, unmoving, his gaze fixed on me. I tried to ignore him, checking my phone again, still no message from Vanessa. Every time I looked up, he was still there, his dark eyes staring through me, void of emotion, cold and empty. I decided to leave. If Vanessa wanted to show up, she would text me. Annoyed at the wasted time, I stood up and turned to leave, but as I walked away, an inexplicable shiver ran down my spine. Instinctively, I glanced back. The man was no longer by the tree. A cold dread settled in my stomach when I realized he was now walking behind me, maintaining just enough distance to avoid attracting attention from others in the park. My heart pounded, but I tried to stay calm. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he was just heading in the same direction. But when I quickened my pace, so did he. When I turned down a smaller path, he followed. I couldn't take it anymore. I broke into a sprint, running straight for my car, not daring to look back. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my keys, unlocking the car and diving inside. My breathing was ragged, my pulse racing as I checked the rearview mirror. The man stood right outside my window. He remained motionless for a few seconds, but his shoulders twitched slightly as if suppressing a laugh. His eyes were dark voids, absorbing the light around them. His lips curled, trembling before stretching into a grotesque grin, the edges of his mouth pulling unnaturally, as if his face were slowly being torn apart. He tilted his head, moving slowly, deliberately, as though savoring my fear. He didn't try to open the door, didn't shout or bang on the window. He simply stood there, tilting his head, grinning that sickening, unnatural smile. Then he lifted a single finger and tapped on the glass 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. A paralyzing terror gripped me as he leaned closer, his voice a whisper that seemed to echo from somewhere deep and unnatural. "Not who you were expecting, huh?" I froze. My throat tightened, unable to make a sound. He lingered for a few more seconds, basking in my horror, before slowly turning away and vanishing into the shadows of the trees. When I finally regained control of my body, I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking as I reopened the dating app. Vanessa's profile was gone. No trace of her remained, as if she had never existed. No chat history, no phone number, nothing. Just me, sitting in my car with trembling hands, questioning everything that had just happened. The real question is, if Vanessa never existed, then who had I been texting all those weeks? And more terrifyingly, how long had that man been watching me from the shadows? What do you think really happened to Vanessa? Do you believe that something not entirely human is using these platforms to find people just like me? Do you dare to listen to the dark? If tonight's tale gave you chills, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what creeps you out and what other stories you'd love us to explore. Don't miss out on the next terrifying story. Subscribe to DTC, The Place of the Brave, and join the family that thrives on the unknown. Tap the notification bell so you're the first to hear every spine-chilling tale. Share this video with someone brave enough to face the darkness, and let's dive deeper into the creeps that haunt our world. Comment below and become part of the terror. The darkness is calling, and we want you with us. Story 3, The Midnight Visitor. I never thought I'd be the type of person to end up in a horror story. You know those urban legends, the ones people tell around campfires or whisper about in hushed voices late at night. I always thought they were just that, stories. But the night I met Brian, I realized that some nightmares don't stay confined to fiction. You always hear about these things happening to someone else. A distant name in a news article, a cautionary tale shared over drinks with friends. But the night I met Brian, my reality twisted into something I never could have imagined. I had just moved into my new apartment, a fresh start after a bad breakup. It was supposed to be a new chapter, me, a cozy little place, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to meet someone worth my time. So, like any modern dater, I downloaded an app. That's how I met Brian. He seemed normal at first, kind, thoughtful. He asked about my favorite movies, my job, my hobbies. He never sent creepy messages or pushed boundaries. He was safe, or so I thought. After a week of chatting, he suggested we meet for dinner. It was a casual spot, not too busy, not too quiet. The kind of place that feels just safe enough for a first date. Brian was polite, charming even, but there was something off. Not in an obvious way, but in the way he watched me. The way his questions always circled back to personal details, where I lived, where I parked my car, what time I usually got home. At the time, I brushed it off as nervous curiosity. People ask weird questions sometimes, right? The night ended, and I knew I wouldn't be seeing Brian again. There was nothing inherently wrong with him, but my gut told me to walk away. So I did. That was my first mistake. Later that night, around midnight, I was curled up on my couch, half watching a movie, when I heard it. A knock. It was soft at first, just a single tap, then another, and another. A chill ran down my spine. My apartment was on the second floor of a building with a secured entrance. No one could just walk up to my door. I tiptoed to the peephole, heart hammering in my chest. Nothing. The hallway was empty. I exhaled, telling myself I was being paranoid. Maybe it was just someone knocking on the wrong door, but then my phone buzzed. A message. "Why won't you open the door?" My breath caught in my throat. It was Brian. Every hair on my body stood on end. I hadn't given him my address. I hadn't even told him what neighborhood I lived in. I backed away from the door, fingers trembling as I dialed 911. The operator was calm, professional, told me officers were on their way. I waited, barely breathing, phone clutched in my hand, every shadow in my apartment suddenly feeling like it was watching me. Minutes stretched into eternity. I didn't hear any more knocking, no footsteps, just silence. When the police arrived, they found nothing, no one in the hall, no signs of forced entry. They took a statement, patrolled the area, and left with the usual advice. Be careful, keep your doors locked, call if anything happens again. But something didn't feel right. I double-checked the locks, peered out the window, and tried to convince myself it was over. Maybe he got scared off when he saw the police. Maybe this was just some sick joke. Maybe. I barely slept that night. Every creak, every gust of wind outside sent my heart racing. But by morning, the fear started to fade. I told myself it was done. I blocked his number, deleted the app, and swore off online dating forever. Days passed, then a week. No calls, no messages, no knocks at my door. I almost convinced myself it had all been in my head, until the smell started. It was faint at first, just a hint of something rotting. I thought maybe my fridge had gone bad, or something had gotten stuck in the garbage disposal. But the smell grew stronger, pungent, decay, and something worse. Then I noticed it. A faint, putrid smell that had been lingering for days, now stronger than ever. The kind of scent that made my stomach twist, a mixture of rot and something almost metallic. I swallowed hard, my pulse pounding as I strained my ears. Was that breathing? Faint, uneven, almost imperceptible, but definitely there. My gaze darted around the room until it landed on the vent above my closet. It was slightly ajar. With shaking hands, I grabbed a flashlight and pointed it inside, and that's when I saw it. A pair of eyes, wide and unblinking, staring back at me. What if he's still out there, waiting for the next person to swipe right? What if he's already watching someone new, learning their routine, planning his next move? Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even when no one was supposed to be there? Even now, I can't shake the feeling that he might have been in my apartment long before I ever met him. Had he watched me move in? Had he followed me before our first date? How many nights had I slept, blissfully unaware of the figure lurking just above me? I still wake up in a cold sweat, imagining the sound of soft breathing coming from the vents. Every time I hear a creak in my home, I wonder, am I truly alone? Or is there someone waiting, watching, just out of sight? What if he's already watching someone new, learning their routine, planning his next move? Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even when no one was supposed to be there? Have you ever met someone online and felt like something was just off? Did you listen to your instincts or did you ignore them? Because sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones we imagine. They're the ones who smile at us through a screen, waiting for us to let them in. Do you dare to listen to the dark? If tonight's tale gave you chills, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what creeps you out and what other stories you'd love us to explore. Don't miss out on the next terrifying story. Subscribe to DTC, the Place of the Brave, and join the family that thrives on the unknown. Tap the notification bell so you're the first to hear every spine-chilling tale. Share this video with someone brave enough to face the darkness, and let's dive deeper into the creeps that haunt our world. Comment below and become part of the terror. The darkness is calling, and we want you with us. Story 4, The Fake Emergency, a terrifying dating story. Have you ever met someone so perfect that you wondered if it was too good to be true? I did, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. We met on a dating app. His name was Ethan, 32 years old, tall, confident, charming. Unlike most guys, he wasn't overly eager or dull. He was intriguing. His messages were thoughtful. His sense of humor was subtle yet captivating. I felt like I had known him for years. After weeks of chatting, he asked me out. And of course, I said yes. We met at a cozy little restaurant, dim lights, soft jazz music, the kind of place that makes you believe in romance again. And Ethan? He was even more attractive in person. The way he spoke, the way he smiled, the way he looked at me, it all made me feel incredibly lucky. Everything was perfect until his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His expression changed instantly. His eyes widened, his lips parted slightly, his fingers tightening around the phone. "It's my sister," he muttered, voice shaky. "She's been in a car accident. I need to get to the hospital, now." My heart clenched. "Do you need help?" I asked instinctively. He looked at me, his eyes desperate, pleading. "Can you drive me there?" I didn't hesitate. I should have. We rushed to my car. Ethan sat in the passenger seat, guiding me, but as we drove, I started feeling off. At first I ignored it. Maybe it was just nerves or the rush of the situation. But after a few minutes, I realized something. The streetlights became fewer, the road darker. The buildings disappeared, replaced by empty lots and tall, swaying trees casting eerie shadows. "What hospital are we going to?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Ethan was silent for a moment. Then he smiled. "Just keep driving. You'll see." A chill ran down my spine. I glanced at my phone on the seat. I just needed to send my location. Before I could reach for it, his hand grabbed mine, fast, tight. "You don't need that," he said, cold, emotionless. My blood turned to ice. The air in the car suddenly felt thick, suffocating. Gone was the concerned brother. Gone was the warm smile. Now he was just watching me. No sister, no accident, no hospital. He was taking me somewhere, and I might never come back. The escape plan. I had to act fast. Up ahead, I spotted a gas station, its neon lights flickering in the darkness. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked, as if sensing my fear. I forced a laugh, pretending to relax. "Sorry, I really need to use the restroom. Just 1 minute." He stared at me. Too long, thinking, calculating. Then he nodded. "Fine, make it quick." I stepped out, my legs shaky. Every step toward the gas station felt like wading through a nightmare. I pushed the door open and spotted the cashier. I didn't think, I just whispered, voice trembling, "Call 911. I think I'm in danger." The cashier's face changed instantly. I turned back toward my car. Ethan was still sitting inside, but now he wasn't pretending anymore. He was just staring at me, unblinking, expressionless. And then he opened the car door. He stepped out. My breath caught in my throat. What was he going to do? Come inside? Grab me? Suddenly he turned and ran into the darkness. Gone. The final warning. The police arrived within minutes. They searched the area. They found nothing. I gave them Ethan's profile from the dating app. The officer frowned. "This profile doesn't exist." I felt my stomach drop. He erased everything. It was as if he was never real, as if I had imagined the whole thing, but I knew better. That night, I locked my doors, checked my windows, trying to convince myself it was over, that he was gone. And then, my phone vibrated, a text message from an unknown number. I hesitated before opening it. Next time won't be so easy. I dropped my phone. The room suddenly felt colder. I was alone, but I didn't feel alone. What about you? Have you ever had a date that felt wrong? Have you ever ignored a gut feeling that was trying to warn you? Share your story in the comments, if you dare. Story 5. The Setup, a dating app nightmare. I should have known something was off from the beginning. There was a heaviness in my chest, a nagging sensation at the back of my mind like a whisper I couldn't quite catch. But when you're lonely, when you crave connection, you tend to ignore the warning signs. But when you're lonely, when you crave connection, you tend to ignore the warning signs. My name is Daniel, and this is the night I was nearly swallowed by the abyss of a dating app nightmare. It started innocently enough. I matched with a woman named Evelyn on a new dating app that had been making the rounds. Her pictures were stunning, high cheekbones, piercing green eyes, and a mischievous smile that hinted at something just out of reach. The moment I saw them, a strange mix of excitement and unease settled in my gut, as if my instincts were trying to warn me, but my loneliness drowned them out. Her bio was short, almost cryptic. "Let's meet where the lights are low and the secrets run deep." I should have taken that as a clue, but instead I let myself get drawn in. Our conversations were electric, fast, witty, and intoxicating. It felt like we had an instant connection, something rare in the sea of awkward small talk that dating apps usually led to. After just a few nights of messaging, she suggested we meet in person at an upscale lounge downtown. "It's exclusive," she said. "You'll love it. Just ask for the VIP section when you get there." The idea thrilled me. Maybe this was finally it, the connection I had been waiting for. So, dressed in my best, I arrived at the lounge, the neon sign flickering like a dying star. The bouncer barely glanced at me as I walked in, swallowed by the pulsating music and dim lighting. The place had an eerie charm, modern yet strangely hollow, like a movie set just waiting for something to go wrong. A message popped up on my phone. "I'm in the VIP section. Come find me." I wove my way through the crowded floor, my heart pounding in anticipation. But just as I reached the curtained-off VIP area, two massive men stepped in front of me, their presence cutting through the noise like a blade. "You Daniel?" one of them growled. Something in his voice made the hairs on my neck stand up. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but I was frozen, caught in the headlights of something dark and unseen. "Yeah," I said hesitantly. That was all it took. In an instant, a heavy hand shoved me back against the cold, mirrored wall. The other man ripped my phone from my hand, his fingers digging into my wrist like iron shackles. My wallet disappeared next, vanished into the void of his coat pocket. I tried to fight. Stupid, I know, but desperation does strange things to people. My struggle earned me nothing but a painful twist of my arm and a whisper in my ear that sent ice through my veins. "Evelyn set you up. Walk away and forget this, or you'll regret it." Then, just like that, they were gone, dissolving into the shadows of the club. But for a few agonizing seconds, I could still feel their presence, lingering in the air like a phantom whisper. The music pounded, the laughter and clinking glasses continued as if nothing had happened, yet I felt utterly alone, trapped in the echo of their threat. My breath came in short, ragged bursts, my fingers twitching where my phone had been just moments ago. I tried to scan the room, searching for Evelyn, if that was even her real name, but there was nothing. No sign of her. No trace that she had ever existed. Just the cold, suffocating realization that I had walked straight into a trap, and I had no one to blame but myself. I stood there breathless, my heartbeat a deafening drum in my ears. When I finally regained control of my limbs, I bolted from the lounge, the cold night air slapping me back to reality. I went straight to the police, convinced this had to be some kind of isolated incident. But as I sat there recounting my humiliation, the officer barely reacted. He simply nodded, flipping through a file that was already too thick. "Another one," he muttered under his breath. My stomach twisted. Turns out I wasn't the first. My breath caught in my throat, a sickening wave of dread washing over me. The realization settled in like a heavy stone in my gut. This wasn't just bad luck, this was a well-oiled trap, and I had walked right into it like so many others before me. There had been others, same method, same lounge, same Evelyn, only she had gone by different names: Sophie, Natasha, Emily. She was a ghost, slipping through digital profiles, baiting men into the same trap before vanishing without a trace. That night, I deleted every dating app on my phone, but sleep didn't come easy. Every shadow in my room felt deeper. Every notification on my phone sent a jolt of panic through me. I spent hours searching for information, trying to find even the smallest detail that might reveal who she really was. But nothing. Just a string of victims left in her wake, men who had been lured and robbed, some even injured or worse. The more I dug, the more disturbing it became. Reports hinted at something even darker. Stories of men who had gone missing after meeting her. Were they just rumors? Or was I one wrong move away from becoming one of them? But even now, I still feel her presence lurking in the unseen corners of the internet, waiting for the next lonely soul to swipe right. So tell me, have you ever felt like someone online was too perfect? Have you ever wondered if the person on the other side of the screen was even real? What if they were watching you, waiting, setting a trap just like the one I walked into? What if the next match you make isn't just a coincidence? And if you think it couldn't happen to you, think again. That eerie sense of familiarity, the way their words seem crafted just for you, almost too well? Have you ever caught yourself wondering if you were being watched, studied, before you even swiped right? Ever had a date that just didn't sit right? Maybe, just maybe, you've already met someone like Evelyn. And if you have, are you sure you made it out? As the darkness deepens and the stories grow more unsettling, we venture deeper into the unknown together. Each chilling tale brings us closer to the eerie truths lurking just beyond the veil of reality. The terror doesn't stop here, it only gets worse. Subscribe to DTC, The Place of the Brave now, and stay on the edge of your seat. You won't want to miss what's lurking in the shadows next. Hit that notification bell and prepare for the next terrifying chapter. Remember, in the world of DTC, the Place of the Brave are always waiting, and they never rest. I Moon.